Let's go across to Glasgow because Gavin Cooney of the 42 is there. Evening, Gavin.
How are you, Nathan?
It's been a relatively uneventful week for Stephen Kenny. Andrew Omobamidele's absence aside, he's pretty much got a full deck to choose from.
Yeah, it's been low on news, hasn't it? And it's also been an opportunity, almost a full week's training. We've had there's a long lead into this game now. I mean, the squad assembled on Sunday night. They flew out today and the game's not till Saturday. So it's been so rare for Stephen Kenny and his coaches to get that amount of time with the squad on the training ground before a match. Like usually, we oftentimes would have played one game and we'd be gearing up for the second at this point in an international window. So only a 2-game window and lots of time to prepare for this trip to Scotland.
So this is the Nations League. So just a reminder as to where we are. The first 4 games all took place in that really condensed June window. It got off to the worst possible start for the Republic of Ireland. They were beaten over in Armenia, then beaten at home by what was essentially a second-string Ukraine side, and I think everybody was a little bit concerned at that stage for Stephen Kenny's future, because all the momentum that had been built up over the previous 6-9 months disappeared pretty quickly. But then Ireland produced arguably the best performance under Kenny at home against Scotland. The quality of the goals from Troy Parrott and Michael Obafemi, 3-0 win there. Followed it up over in Ukraine, or away against Ukraine in Poland, a 1-1 draw. Nathan Collins scores that wonder goal, and it means Ireland, it feels, are in a strong position to kick on from here, though in terms of what it means for the Nations League, unlikely to top their group, unlikely to get a second seeding in next month's draw for the Euro qualifiers, yet there is still an importance on picking up as many points as you possibly can.
Yeah, unlikely, Nathan, but not impossible. And while we still have hope, we should cling to it in terms of topping the group. So if Ireland do want to top the group, they have to win their 2 games. So beat Scotland on Saturday, then beat Armenia on Tuesday. Now, recent history would tell you that that's not very likely because Ireland have yet to win back-to-back competitive games under Stephen Kenny. They've been so maddeningly inconsistent under Kenny so far, results-wise at least. And they also need other results to go their way. They need Ukraine to either draw or lose to Armenia on Saturday afternoon. And then they need Ukraine and Scotland to draw on Tuesday. So they will kick off at Hampden Park knowing the result of that Ukraine and Armenia game as regards if they still have a chance of topping the group or not. But as you say, it's important. There are so many different permutations and so many different sets of results with so many different outcomes that you can kind of drive yourself a little bit mad worrying about all the permutations. But it is basically important for Ireland to pick up as many results as they can because the Nations League determines seeding for Euro 2024 for that qualifying draw. That's on the 9th of October. And it will also have a say in whether Ireland will get a playoff for those Euros if they can qualify through the front door of that qualification group. So the chances of them, they'll be second seeds if they can top the group. If they don't top the group, they have a tiny chance, but it's very, very slim, of being second seeds. That's unlikely. And then in terms of making the playoffs, it comes down to needing results from elsewhere across the whole qualifying group in all the qualifying groups in 2023. There's 4 playoff spots up for grabs in League B, and the 4 top-ranked sides who don't go to the Euros will get one. So there's many imponderables. There's a whole load of results we still have to figure out. But basically, collect the more points Ireland can get over these next 2 games, the more likely it is that they'll go to the Euros.
And just to put a bit more context on that, the draw for the Euros, like at the moment, both France and England are among the second seeds. So you could be left with a particularly daunting qualifying path by being third seeds. Though if Ireland win these 2 games, they'll probably have that guaranteed playoff, as we had the last time against Slovakia. I was in the office on Monday and got a lot of looks of bemusement when I was talking about the importance of these games, and if Ireland were to slip up against Scotland and slip up again against Armenia, that in 10 days' time, we'll be discussing Stephen Kenny's future if that were to happen. And a lot of looks of, no. Stephen Kenny has a contract. This is now set in stone. There's nothing that could happen over these 2 games that would start that conversation again. What's your sense of how solid the ground that Kenny is on right now?
I would say that the ground is pretty solid. There will always be that kind of speculation, but I'd be true, like back to even God, I don't know. If Ireland were to lose both these games, he'd be under a lot of pressure, and he'd be on the back foot going into that Euros campaign. But I'd be shocked if the FAI made a change. He's been given a contract until the end of the Euros qualification, and Euros qualification is the benchmark. It's in the FAI's strategic report. The baseline expectation for the senior men's international team is that they qualify for the Euros, and it's at the end of that campaign that it'll be judged. And if Ireland don't qualify for those Euros, then I don't think Kenny can have too many complaints if he's moved on. There'll be lots of speculation and lots of noise, as there always is. But if the results don't go well for Ireland, there will be pressure, and there will be an expectation that things will have to turn around for Kenny. But I'd be amazed to see the FAI make a move and go looking for another manager.
So in terms of selection for Saturday night, Stephen Kenny has the usual issues that an international manager faces, that some of his first choice players just aren't getting as much game time as they would like. One of those is Matt Doherty, who you could make an argument has maybe been the best player of Stephen Kenny's reign so far, who has had little or no game time for Tottenham. You were out at the press conference he was at earlier in the week, and we're asking him about Antonio Conte. So here's what Matt Doherty had to say about Antonio Conte changing the mentality at Spurs and why he's raring to go in this window.
Yeah, I feel ready to start. I mentioned earlier that we train extremely hard at club level, so if you're kind of not starting games, you're ready to start, even if you've not been coming off the bench and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel pretty ready to go.
Yeah, those pre-seasons at Spurs look fairly brutal.
Well, the last one was, yeah. Last one was pretty tough.
Can you give us an insight into how you've changed and improved as a player since you started working with Conte?
Yeah, look, I think just obviously fitness-wise has been a huge improvement in, I think, the whole squad, not just me. Tactically, we're seeing a different style of play, different way of playing, and I think you can probably see that in the results that we get at club level now, that we're kind of just not dominating teams with the ball, but we never look really at threat of conceding many goals, and we always, with the boys up top, always have chances to win. And just mentally, he's kind of changed the mentality of the whole club. He's made us feel like we can win. He's made us feel like winners. We know he's obviously won a lot in the past, and we're kind of trying to join the ride with him.
Have you personally felt that change in mentality as well? And if so, is that something you can take into the international camp?
Yeah, I've personally felt that. We have meetings, we have talks where after you feel motivated, you're feeling like, I remember first when he first came in, he had a meeting, and you were ready to run through a wall for him after it. So look, he's one of the best managers that have been around. So whatever he says, we listen to.
Yeah. So Matt Doherty, despite his lack of game time, do you expect him to start?
Yeah, I do. He's been too important for Stephen Kenny. He's been, as you say, one of Kenny's best players under his reign, if not his best player. We asked Doherty there if he feels fit to start. He does. He's barely played for Tottenham, which is a worry. He's had 20 minutes off the bench this season across a Champions League game against Marseille and a Premier League game against Southampton, and he's been out of action since April. So that he is painfully lacking match sharpness. But he insists that he's fit to go because the training regime at Tottenham would have you fitter than most players would be from playing games elsewhere. I think that's probably fair. We've heard about kind of the pre-seasons under Conte that Doherty alluded to there, which are less a series of training sessions than they are kind of a trials of ritual punishment. Heard these long pitch-long sprints that they were doing in an open training session in South Korea. The Troy Parrott is the last man left standing, actually, and the likes of Harry Kane left writhing on the floor vomiting. They were absolutely brutal. So Doherty insists that he's fit to go, and I thought it was a bit of a concern just to the extent to which he's been out in the cold at Spurs. He's not even second choice right wing back based off the selections we've seen so far this season. He's been third choice. Emerson Royale, who I really don't think is much good, is nonetheless first choice. And Ivan Perisic swapped from the left to the right for that game against Leicester at the weekend, and he was second choice. But Doherty had a slightly curtailed pre-season. That knee injury that he picked up in April carried into pre-season, but he says the last couple of weeks he's moving better and he feels fully sharp, and the plan is for him to go away with Ireland, get 2 games, and that'll force him back into the reckoning at Tottenham. So he's of a quality and of an experience, and he has such credit in the bank with Stephen Kenny that I really would be surprised if he didn't start right wing back on Saturday.
Looking at the rest of the potential 11, stop me if you disagree. My sense will be that there's just a couple of positions that Stephen Kenny really needs to think about. So with Caoimhín Kelleher injured, it's straightforward. Gavin Bazunu will come back in goal. There's a space at centre back. Nathan Collins and John Egan, you assume, are automatic selections. Is it Darrell Shea, who's playing club football all the time? Is it Shane Duffy, who again has had a real rejuvenation over recent months with Stephen Kenny? Or does he go back to Seamus Coleman, who I was looking when you take out the first couple of matches of Stephen Kenny's reign against Bulgaria and Finland? Whenever Coleman's been fit, which has been rare enough, unfortunately, Coleman has always started when he's been in the squad. But like Doherty, hasn't played at all. What do you think he'll do?
If Coleman does play, he'll play at right centre back. Like he could pick any of the three. Just looking at Scotland's game last night against Ukraine, they scored 2 of the 3 goals from set pieces. So I'm wondering, will he be tempted then to play Duffy? But then at the same time, you saw how well Scotland pressed Ukraine in that game midweek. And then cast your mind back to the early stages at Lansdowne Road of that 3-0 win for Ireland. The early stages looked anything but like like they would end up in a 3-0 win for Ireland. Twice they gave the ball away playing out from the back, and twice John McGinn should have scored. So you're wondering, is Shane Duffy the right man to play there? Would Coleman or O'Shea be better on the ball? So I'm not sure. I don't know. There's no insight here. There's no. I don't know what's going to happen. If I was going to take a punt, I'd take a punt on Duffy, just because what he adds in terms of set pieces, both in Ireland's area, penalty box, and in the opposition area. And if he plays in the centre, that frees Nathan Collins to go to the right of the back three, from which gives him more license to step forward into midfield. And he, of all of Ireland's defenders, I think Collins is the defender who is most comfortable playing around a high press from the opposition. So that's the direction I think he'll go. But as I say, that's a guess, and I know you're going to clip this out and put it out before kickoff when Coleman or O'Shea are picked and make me look foolish.
Well, listen, you and me both. So Matt Doherty, I expect he'll start on the right. James McLean, even with Robbie Brady back, feels like the jersey is his right now. He was very impressive in the last 2 games. And then the middle of midfield, like there was a big shift after the defeat against Ukraine, where Jeff Hendrick finally dropped out of the team and Jason Malumbi came in, and Callum Robinson and Chidozie Ogbene, who again a year ago were the guys we thought were the future, they had a dip, they dropped out. Do you see any way back for those 3?
Oh, there's always ways back. I mean, Hendrick coming out of the team, what was more important than Hendrick coming out of the team was the fact that 2 midfielders came in his place. I mean, Ireland went from a midfield 2 to a midfield 3 for that game against Scotland, and the subsequent game in Poland against Ukraine, and that made all the difference. So Cullen will start. I'd imagine he'll stick with Knight and Malumbi, but Hendrick could easily come back in. Like, he's playing regularly and reasonably for Reading, and he's also playing in a similar system. They've been playing the back 3, and Hendrick has been one of the more attacking 8s. So I could easily see him coming back into the team, and he's always linked up really well with Matt Doherty on the right hand side when they've played together. So that is. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Hendrick come straight back into the team. As for Robinson, there was a stage in 2021 where Robinson was our great hope for goals, and he was our first player scoring hat-tricks and scoring more than once in games since Robbie Keane, and then he just faded from the team. I think he looked really unfit in June, I have to say. I remember seeing him. We were in Armenia and he was down on the ground with the towel slung around his shoulders like he's gone 12 rounds of Mike Tyson after half an hour in that game. It was warm, but it wasn't that warm. So he's forced his way into the Cardiff team now, having left West Brom, and he made a bit of an impact in one of his early games. But I can't see him coming into the team. But Ogbene might well be selected. He'll offer pace in behind the Scottish backline, which I think will be important for Ireland, given that Scotland will want to press high and they'll leave that space behind. And he's the man in form. He scored 4 goals in his first 5 games of the season for Rotherham, and he's happily at club level been relocated from right wing back to forward, which Stephen Kenny has admitted is a boost for Ireland, just to have him playing in the position that he wants to play him in international level. So there's always ways back for these guys. Like we've written so many international obituaries over the years, only for players to bounce back from the next window or the window after it. So I wouldn't at all be surprised to see Hendrick restored to the starting lineup. And I think Troy Parrott is probably nailed on to start, and I think there's a spot open as his partner up front. Can't see Scott Hogan making it despite his good club form, because he was just anonymous when he started there against Ukraine in June. So I think it's a call between either Obafemi or Ogbene. I don't know. I don't know which way he's going to go.
Let's hear from Josh Cullen. He was discussing the Scottish result against Ukraine, and they were incredibly impressive last night in a 3-0 win. It could easily have been 4 or 5 for Scotland, and he was talking about that, and also why Ireland's victory in June has little bearing on Saturday's game.
Yeah, of course it was a good result for them. Performance was obviously full of energy, and look, it's a great result for them, and a good win. But Saturday will be a new day, and we have to go in full of confidence and full of belief that we can go and get a result. No game is the same. It's going to be a new day on Saturday. We can't read too much into what happened in the summer. Obviously, we take the positives from that and belief from it, but it's a new day, it's a new game, and it's down to us to go there. We've had a good week to prepare, and we feel ready for the game now, and we're looking forward to, like I said, going into the game, putting in a good performance and trying to get a positive result.
And what were the positives from that game? What do you feel that you did very well in that performance against Scotland that you'll be able to take now for the return game? Yeah,
I think obviously the goals we scored, being clinical in front of goal, goal from a set piece, obviously a great goal, pass from Mikey and a great finish from Troy, and then obviously a bit of brilliance from Mikey for the third goal as well. So I think we can take the belief as a team that we've scored goals against them, and we'll be looking to do that again, different types of goals, all over the pitch. I think we're full of energy, one sort of individual battles, so we'll be looking to go and do that again.
I'd imagine, Gav, that the quality of that Scottish performance probably sold a few more tickets at Hampden Park on Saturday night, and Scotland are coming into this in such a different mindset from the summer. They were, a week on from the devastation of losing the World Cup playoff against Ukraine. The flip of that, watching them last night, the energy from John McGinn in particular and from Shea Adams, this is going to be quite a test.
It will be, yeah. Scotland were really good last night. Like they changed to a back four. I think it's the first time they've played a back four since the end of 2019, or at least started with a back four. And just the energy and the high pressing, like they rob possession off Ukraine, trying to play out from the back so often, which is a big concern for Ireland because that's how they play, and we've seen them look susceptible at times, if not all the time. But that is a concern for Ireland. Scotland were so dominant last night, like 3-0. I think flattered Ukraine a bit. I mean, it was 22 shots or something to 1 Ukraine shot, and that wasn't even on target. So they were dominant. So you are wondering, God, are we getting Scotland at a bad time? But do you prefer to get Scotland when they're so confident in themselves? And it doesn't take much, I have to say. I mean, I was reading the piece on the Guardian today, wondering whether Steve Clarke should rest Kieran Tierney for this game ahead of the Ukraine game on Tuesday. Yes. Because I have to say, I love this stuff. This is the stuff I want to read.
I saw Shea Adams out for revenge, prove a point against Ireland more than anybody.
I know, they really want to atone. And they might have scored early on in Dublin, and that might have been a different game. But they were bad in Dublin. But I have to say, the reaction on the Scottish end was a bit OTT, and not to be too small-minded about it, didn't think they gave Ireland a lot of credit. But look, I mean, that piece in the Guardian is there because the permutations are such that a draw for Scotland is fine on Saturday, because that means they can go to Krakow, and if they beat Ukraine in their last game, they'll still top the group. So it's still alive for them. But yeah, no, Scotland looked a completely different team, in fairness. I mean, joking aside, I mean, maybe this isn't a great time to face Scotland based off how good they were in midweek. So it'll be interesting to see if that affects how Stephen Kenny's looking at this game. Josh Cullen they're pretty much insistent that it probably won't. But we'll have to wait and see.
All right, Gav, thanks a lot for that.